Yeah.
Well, talk more about that, Doug, because you had talked about the need for someone to master both. And so you think that's what's happening here?
Well, I didn't say there was a need for it, but we've never seen it. All the Jedi Masters could only teach the good side of the Force and warn against the dark side. It's a seductive path. Don't have attachments. And it's like,
yes,
that's a tall order.
Yeah.
And then even the dark side, Emperor Palpatine, all he can do is teach the dark side, and all the ridiculous dogma of the Jedi, whatever. Here's a guy who has mastered both sides, and is teaching lessons from the dark side and the light side, and they're both relevant. From the good side, wanting to live or die is a matter of survival, so that you don't get destroyed by evil and destruction. And from the dark side, it's because you're greedy for life. You must want to live. And she gets both lessons and chooses life in the end.
Yeah. And she even dips into the dark side just for a moment. Just for a moment. And then so she overcomes her hatred and chooses, like she says, she wants to live, but she also doesn't cut off his, she doesn't make that final move, right?
But that's important, because Yoda's not going to teach that lesson. It's only the dark side guys that try to bait you into turning, unleash your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me. Like, that's the dark side trying to bait you into that. And he's doing that to her, and she takes the bait for the smallest second, which I don't mind, because we all have the dark side. That's the idea, is that it's in us. We have to learn to control it, not to give into it, right? Everyone has a dark side.
Yeah. I just hope that with all the stuff that we're finding that's really poignant about this, that they don't just throw it away with something stupid. You know what I mean? I really like
I'm right there with you. It's like we're all locking arms and we're like,
yes.
And then that happens a lot.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard for anybody to actually say that they like it. I mean, I've seen people who are like, I don't know if we should actually admit that I like this, because it's
yes,
don't
you're totally right.
Get let down.
I've had people tease me about getting excited about this, and I don't even argue, because everyone might be laughing at me next week if episode 6 throws it all out the window, that I got this passionate about it. But there's a chance that this is trending in the right direction, and I'll say, here's what I'll say. And this is only true of Star Wars because of the way of all the prequels and the original trilogy. The prequels told the story of the fall of the Republic, the collapse of the Jedi Order, the rise of the Sith, and the rise of the Empire. It was catastrophic. Episode 3 ends with the bad guys completely winning. Clean sweep, total victory for the bad guys. That's how you end the first trilogy. The original trilogy is about good versus evil, and the insurgent good rises up to strike the Empire and brings it all down. Great. So you're going to have a new Republic. So you're going to have a new Jedi Order. What do we do differently? You cannot have another film or trilogy. You cannot move forward with Star Wars after Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, unless you go back to answer the central question of the prequels. What went wrong? How do we stop it from happening? And what are the policy? What do we do differently this time? What do we let attachments into the Jedi Order? Maybe do we study the dark side so that we're not blind to it when it grows under our nose? From the Republic, do we put Jedi in with the military? Do we do military interventions in the systems like this? You have to start asking those questions. The sequel trilogy didn't even think about those questions.
Oh, no.
They never said we have to solve the prequels. We have to learn from what the doom of the prequels. This episode convinced me, at least for now, that they're returning to those central questions in this episode of what went wrong and what should we have done. And we're doing it through Ahsoka Tano, who was there in the prequels, who knows Anakin, like Luke. Luke knows him. She knows him better than Luke, actually. She is the eyes of the innocent that this franchise is desperately needed. She's a heroic woman that we can all get behind. And she's tied to the main legacy characters. And she seems to be asking the important questions. What should we have done differently? And she's asking them, this is why I think this is important. She's asking them in the episode that was rumored to shift away from the sequel trilogy. Meaning, If you're going to shift away from the sequel trilogy, you then have to go back and ask those questions. And they just did that in this episode. So I'm like, they're going back. They're going back to the prequels because that's where it all went wrong. There is no New Republic. There is no Return of the Jedi and the New Jedi Order unless we ask these questions. We have to go back to the prequels to solve it. And this episode asks all of those vital questions in those flashback sequences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why I have that hope that you guys will all be laughing at me next week, maybe.
Well, we'll see. All right, that's quite a call.
So, but they might move away from some of it to introduce Grand Admiral Thrawn and really settle into the show's its own conflicts. But they've opened a door, in my opinion, in the right place, The World Between Worlds, in the show that they said they would, from the writers that said they would, or that was rumored to said they would. And they're addressing the questions that they would have to address if they're going to try to reset this. So there's suddenly a lot that lined up. It was like ding, 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 ding.